Okay, I'm gonna do my best at this one. I've wanted to make this video for weeks now. Hi, my name is Father Mike Schmitz, and this is Ascension Presents. Someone had shared with me a screener, what they call, so you get a preview of a movie. They shared the movie Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel, the true life story about a man named Timothy Ballard, who used to work for Homeland Security, and he would bust pedophiles, essentially, those who would hurt and abuse children. At one point in his life, this true story, at one point in his life, he had busted a number of these individuals. And someone said, how many have you convicted? And there was a big number, a couple hundred. And someone said, well, how many kids have you saved? And he realized that, yes, we need to stop those who are willing to hurt kids, but you have to save these kids too. The statistics are mind-blowing. The millions, there are more slaves right now in the world than there ever have been in the history of humanity. Right now, right? And this is one of the things that this movie, Sound of Freedom, brings up. Again, I'm kind of late to the party because I know that there have been so many reviews, so much commentary on this movie and how important it is. And I don't just want to add noise to this whole thing. I want to just, first of all, I do want to encourage you to watch this movie, and I'll say why at the very end of this video. But also just in noticing, the movie depicts this, it's a true life story, right? This millions of people right now, as I'm saying these words, right now, as you were listening to these words, there are millions of people, millions of children even, who are in sex trafficking and child labor. They're children being bred for their organs. It's just children being plucked off the street. And in some of the most difficult footage to watch in this movie is the very beginning and the very end, where they actually show not live footage, but actual footage of children being abducted. And the common thread in so many of these children's lives is that they are poor, they are desperate, they are not protected, and even sometimes they are protected. And the nefarious men who are willing to do, and women who are willing to do this, is just horrible. And that's what I want to say. That the movie, the story, shows some of the darkest men you've ever seen, right? Some of the most manipulative, the most willing to use innocence, not just those who want to use innocence sexually, but also those who want to use innocence just for gain, for monetary gain, for more power, for more wealth. It also shows men and women who are willing to use their strength to help others. Willing to lay down their lives so others can have life. It depicts this incredible way in which there are some men in this film, in this story, in this real life, who are willing to use everything they have to stop evil and to do good, to rescue kids. So that's the story of Tim Ballard and the people who work with him, and Operation Underground Railroad, and the story, of course, those criminals who are perpetrating this. But there's an individual in this story. It's Tim Ballard's wife. She's in the story, but I don't think you can overestimate her role. At one point, Tim Ballard was months away from collecting pension with the U.S. government, but he had this opportunity to go and save some kids. And he was like, well, maybe I can't do this. I'm placing my own children at risk, my family at risk, because I have a sweet pension. It's going to keep us safe, keep us secure. And I'm giving that up in order to go into going to hell, essentially, risking my life and the future of my family for the lives of these kids. And his wife at first was kind of like, yeah, it's a big question. But then she said she took it to prayer. And at one point she told her husband, she said, I can't imagine standing before my Maker one day, standing before God himself, and him saying, you chose comfort and security over being willing to save my children. She said, Tim, you have to. She said, for the safety of my soul, you have to go and you have to rescue these kids. And this is just so powerful. It's so beautiful. I don't even know if they intended on doing this, but it shows the masculine and feminine genius, right? Just that sense of, here's this man who has so many skills, so much strength, so much capacity to do good, but he needed the feminine genius, right? He needed the feminine genius to say, you must go. There's something so powerful about when men and women work together like this. I mean, it's the reason why. What did God say? It's not good for the man to be alone. Not only do we need others in general, but also husbands and wives need each other. That the masculine genius and the feminine genius, We need each other. It's not, so much of our lives are spent in competition, right? Just like who can dominate the other person. But it's so powerful, and yet I don't even know if they intended on doing this. But the masculine strength, genius, I guess you could say, of Tim Ballard and the people who works with him, it's only made possible because of the feminine genius of his bride. That's so, so powerful. You know, I want to ask you to go watch this movie. It's in times difficult to watch, but not difficult to watch in the sense of being graphic, right? And it's not just, it's not a documentary. It's not preaching at you. Again, one of the things you can count on about this movie is that it's an actual movie. It's kind of a thriller. It's kind of it's a, will they save them? Will they not save them? It's a good story. And the fact that it's a true story is even, heightens it. And the fact that it's talking about some things that are necessary for us to confront, right? Necessary for us to pay attention to is even more important. I can't emphasize enough how you should go see this movie. Not only to support it, but it's a good movie, and we need to put this in front of us. At the end of the movie, in the middle of the credits, Jim Caviezel comes on screen as Jim Caviezel, not as Tim Ballard, and he basically gives some statistics, and he tells us, okay, here's the state of things, and that things can change through the power of story. In fact, I remember hearing him or Tim Ballard talk about Harriet Beecher Stowe. If you remember the story during the Civil War, here's Harriet Beecher Stowe. Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote the book Uncle Tom's Cabin, and she exposed the reality of what life was like living as a slave on a plantation in the United States of America. Like the reality that not just like, oh, there's some people working in a field, but no, here is the devastating reality of slavery. She wrote this book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, at one point. Apparently, Abraham Lincoln met with her, and he said, so you're the little woman who wrote that book that caused this great big war. He realized it was the power of story that galvanized a country to say this has to stop. That's why I think this is such an important movie. That's why I think that this movie is run up against so much opposition. He said, Jim Caviezel says at the end of it, he says, I read somewhere, I've watched so many interviews with these people, Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel, it's like crazy. But he said that, they made this movie 5 years ago, and different people wouldn't pick it up. They wouldn't distribute it. And you wonder, maybe it's because just business is business. But maybe it's because this is a message, this is a story that some people don't want you to know, they don't want you to hear it. They know the power of story, and they know that this story could have the potential to start something that could change our world. This could be, you're the little woman who wrote that book that caused this great big war that led to eradication of slavery here in the United States of America, which was absolutely necessary, horrible. This could be, in fact, Tim Ballard's wife. It could be that, so you're the little lady who encouraged your husband to do this thing that caused the end of the modern sex trafficking, modern labor trafficking, modern organ trafficking, modern human trafficking. I don't want to say epidemic, but when there's more slaves in the world right now than there ever have been, that's pretty massive. So check out this movie. I do not think it'll be a waste of your time. And I do not think it'll be a waste of your money. And I think it just could be the thing that some of us might need, like Tim Ballard's wife, that encouragement to say, okay, now it's time to do something. It's time to end this however we can. Anyways, please pray for those kids tonight who at this very moment, pray for them. From all of us here at Ascension Presents, my name is Father Mike. God bless.